Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our September adventure. We're so happy to go virtual. The in person ones are amazing, but we wanted to make sure that we expand and make these conversations available to our friends who are not here. So, I am Keosha LaFleur Anders. Most people call me Kay. You are welcome to do the same. I am the CEO and founder of Coffee Milk Media. I'm also the founder and executive producer of TEDx Round Rock Women. I'm so proud to bring this conversation to, this platform, the multiple platforms today, because it's important. The power of her story, right? The power of every one of you, of your stories is important to the collective story of how we are resilient, how we are pursuing healing, how we are collaborating and being good to each other. And so I'm excited to bring these four women onto this stage to have this conversation with you about, because we want you to engage, right? So it's not just you listening, no matter what platform you're listening from, YouTube, LinkedIn, and in a minute it'll be Instagram. We want you to engage in a chat. We want to let you know that you are seen and heard, and that we see you. And so, without further ado, I want to introduce Jennifer Lopez. Yes, that is her name. You can call her Jenny. I know it because she has it on her, like on her thing. But Jennifer is actually on this lineup for this year, this inaugural event that we have on November 15th. And she is going to introduce these amazing women who will be speaking with her today. So let me bring Jenny up.
Thank you, Kay. And yes, my name is Jennifer Lopez, but I go by Jenny or JLo. Otherwise, I feel like I'm in trouble. So that's why you see Jenny Lopez here. But welcome, everybody. I will be your moderator today on today's panel of the power of her story. And let's be real. We as women, we carry so much. And yet the most powerful thing that we can do is to breathe and share. And I'm not talking about being perfect, I'm talking about being real. When we share our stories, that help us connect. And when we connect, it makes us realize that we're not alone. And then it gives us permission, not that we need it, but it gives us permission to finally go bold and heal and lead and have the impact that we're meant to have. And today I have the pleasure to be with three experts on storytelling that are going to be joining us. And I'm so looking forward to learning from them. So I'm going to welcome them. These ladies have walked through fire, through joy, through fear, through breakthroughs. And they're not only going to share, but they're also going to inspire for you to also own your voice. So welcome, ladies, Cheryl, Stacy, and Gloria. Hello.
Oh,
I'm so happy and honestly here with my pen and paper and just as a student, as a sponge, learning to learn from each of you. So if we can just start with brief introductions, think about a minute and a half introduction so people can get to know you as well. Stacy, let's start with you.
awesome. Thank you so much, Jenny. I love the Jenny Lopez. I want to call you J-Lo so bad, but I won't.
Let's go.
Uh, so hello, everyone. My name is Stacy Cleveland. I call myself the Storytellers Coach. And that name really came about because of my journey. I live here in Austin, but I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. So I'm a Midwest girl at heart. My background, honestly, is in human resources and operational efficiency. So, how did I become this person to talk about storytelling, right? As a part of my career, I was a facilitator and trainer for many, many years in various industries, nonprofit, university, and most recently in the tech space. So, I did a lot of facilitation, a lot of executive leadership coaching, where telling your story was really, really critical, right? To be able to influence an audience. So storytelling is really near and dear to my heart. I run a business called Just Right Coaching by the Storytellers Coach. And in that business, I work with folks at every phase of their writing journey, whether they're an aspiring author or whether they've already written the book and now they're asking, now what? How do I sort of monetize this message? And some of you out there may know me as romance author Robbie Renee. I write under a pen name where I have penned now 16 books in the romance space. And my most recent book was published on July 29th called Summer's Echo. So I have this dual personality. No judgment for Robbie Renee. You know, Stacy is your strategist. Robbie Renee is your writer. girl.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. I can't wait to hear about your stories. Thank you, Stacy. Cheryl, let's go with you.
Good morning. I'm Cheryl Kemp. I am what is called a change maker. And my story comes from, I'm a brain injury survivor. And in 2012, I was arrested and roughed up by the police and put in jail and now have a record. They misunderstood my crooked walk for DUI. So I am a fraud investigator and a CPA. And with that on my record, I really had no clients or job or anything. So the second step of my 5-step rule was I had to plead guilty in court because you can't discuss a case that's not closed. And then I proceeded to go to the Texas legislature and tell my story. And that's the vulnerability part, because there were no laws to protect me to get my job back or clear my name. So that same year, that was in 2015, the incident happened in 2012. In 2015, the state of Texas passed a law, HB 1338, to prevent that in Texas, requiring law enforcement to be educated on what brain injury looks like. And in 2022, the federal government passed House HR 2992 that now carries that out to be across the nation. Wow. And now I work at bringing that law back down to the police department level so that it's used, because I don't just want the law out there. And I've heard so many stories, and this has expanded into advocacy, which I didn't think it would, but it has, into any kind of difference. So I advocate for people with diabetes or people that can't hear or any kind of thing that people can be arrested and have a record for something that they didn't do. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Way to get storytelling into impact masses. And we're going to get everyone in one of these questions, and I can't wait to dig more into that one. Thank you, Cheryl, for being here. Really inspiring. Gloria.
Hi, thank y'all for being here. I'm Gloria Rabel. I am owner of Pro Story Consulting. I do a lot very similar to what Stacy does. I help writers with either developmental or structural edits, meaning if they have an idea they don't know what to do with, or if they're like, now it's not quite working, what do I do with it? And then on the storytelling performance side of things, I work with individuals to coach them with moth style storytelling, and then with executives or companies and teach workshops or do individual coaching to weave storytelling into their message to kind of fine tune both the performance and the wording and message that they have. I came to storytelling through improv. I started doing improv probably about 15 years ago. And one of my performance buddies does storytelling, and he's like, you got to tell a story. And I said the same thing everyone else says, which is, I don't have anything interesting to say. And he's like, yeah, you do. And we'll figure it out. And he did. And then, a couple of years later, I started co-producing a storytelling show in Austin. I still help with that, but now I live in Chicago. So I went from Central Texas to the Midwest, and opposite of Stacy. So yeah, that's how I came to storytelling. And I just love it so much because of the way it connects us. We can't live everywhere and all the things all the time, and getting to hear other people's stories and what they've been through, like what Cheryl just shared, it's opens your eyes to things that you would never consider because you just won't have that opportunity.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So I'm not an expert in storytelling, but I will say it was because of storytelling that I have the business that I have right now. So I'm a big fan, and I know it works, and I can't wait for you guys to share your wisdom nuggets so people can understand the power of it and do good with it. And just very quick, Jenny Lopez, I'm the founder of Intentional Unicorn, and it's all about authenticity, because when you are your most authentic self, that's whenever you do your best work. But let's just get started. Stacy, why is storytelling such an important part of you can pick one, like professional or personal journey?
Yeah, I mean, how much time do we have, Jenny? But
we have many questions here.
Yes. Storytelling is really an important part of both sides of my identity, my personal and professional, right? But I will focus on professional. I think when you tell a story and you are needing to influence, you are needing to deliver a message, it is more for the recipient So trying to figure out, how do I deliver that message in a way that's very clear? So for me, I spent much of my career in my early 20s, in my 30s, really conforming to the voice that others were trying to create for me, trying to be, the corporate professional that climbed the ladder. But it wasn't until I really started to realize that my story had significance, and it honestly was my strategy for how I could get to the next level, how I could build the business, how I could, even influence my son who is now 20. Like, even storytelling there is really important. So I really anchor, as a part of my storytelling methodology, really clarity is key. And that is why storytelling is so important to me, because I realized once my message was clear, things started to shift. People started to change, actions started to happen, right? So for me, it really, going from being Robbie Renee in one world and being Stacy Cleveland in another world, clarity has to be very important. And that is at the foundation of storytelling for me. So I think while I focused on my personal, it bleeds into the professional as well. As a team leader, as a speaker, all of those things, I have to be able to tell the story to ultimately influence the receiver of that message to do something, to move, to shift, to change. So storytelling for me, it really isn't just an expression. It's not just words coming out of my mouth or, words on the paper when I write a book. It really is about strategy. How am I being strategic about influencing the folks that receive the message that I am delivering? So it's how I healed myself. It's how my message has healed other women. So it is critical. It is a daily walk where I am practicing every single day. How do I ensure that my story, I lead with clarity first and foremost, and then of course confidence and compassion and all of those other things that need to exist when you're telling the story. But for me, it really is about making that connection through my words and through my story, and also demonstrating that if I can do it, you can do it too.
And that's what I heard just by hearing you, that it's about also the person, not you.
Absolutely.
It's the person that you're helping. And that helps you just being, the more clear, the more you can help. So I heard from you strategy, clarity, and it's about the person that you're trying to empower and transform. Love it.
Yes. Yes.
Amazing. Cheryl, sorry, it's Gloria. Gloria, what about you?
I'm the baby of 4 children, so I feel like I probably wasn't heard and seen as much as I would have liked to have been. There's a reason why the babies become performers. So I think I sought out the performing arts, right? I feel like you and I have a lot in common. So that is where I felt a deeper level of being heard and seen. And with storytelling, something happened when really with improv, but shifting into storytelling, as I started to realize that when you're around the quote wrong people, you feel wrong, right? So storytelling and improv have helped me find my voice and know that my voice, the way it is, the way it comes out right now, all of me being too much sometimes and big and loud and all of the things means something to some people. It's not for everyone, but it is for some. And hearing it, having that reflected back in people saying, oh my gosh, I related to that story, or, thank you for sharing it. It's why I do it, because it feels so good to know that I am okay the way that I am in the world, which then leads me into why I do this professionally, which is to help people find their voice and know that their voice is okay exactly the way it is, and that they can be effective in communicating and telling their story exactly the way they are right now. And they don't have to be on or be different than how they show up every day, because people want authenticity.
Yes. What I heard from you, Gloria, is that your voice is perfect as it is, and it will trigger and connect with the right people.
Yes.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, so let's get the conversation going. And Cheryl, listening to your story when you introduced yourself, maybe you can go a little bit even deeper into how an example where storytelling brought you healing or somebody else?
That's the end of a 13-year journey, because I didn't know at the beginning where all I would end up. But every step I took went well and got passed. But that all, while it's governmental and legislative, that's completely different from the personal trip. And that was the harder thing, to stand in front of a group of people who would say, oh, you've been arrested for DUI. I'm sorry, you have a problem. Because in their head, even though I said it, I didn't. That was my biggest struggle, learning to be in front of people. So what I did was I took control, and that really does help. So I have lots of security clearances with the FBI because I'm a CPA and I've wired money and all that. So I was doing an interview for a job with all this on my record, and my innocence wasn't proven yet. And I was interviewing with the FBI, and they said, if we do a background check, are we going to find something? And so rather than cringe, I said, yes, this is what you're going to find. And here's my attorney's name, and here's the issue. And I put it backwards, and I got the job, and I moved forward, because I can't control what everybody else thinks. I can't control the fact that I didn't do this. And innocence comes down to your personal belief in yourself at the end of the day. And it's amazing how much that's reflected. So that was here in Texas. But when I was going to Washington, because I went to Washington quite often to work with Congress, I learned, because I was doing all my own advocacy, I would map out where the different legislators' offices were, and then I would stand outside their door, and as they got in the elevator to go to the floor to the vote, I would hop in the elevator with them. And I would say, hello, my name is Cheryl. To be different is not to be guilty. Do you have a moment to hear why? And nobody ever refused me. So it's that elevator pitch that makes them go, what? And I've always had bipartisan support. And I think having navigated Congress, and I spoke to Congress actually on March 4th of 2020, but I spoke to the Texas legislature too. Those didn't scare me nearly as badly, because they're like faceless. It's like so far out that you're not afraid of them. But I always find a person in the crowd to talk to. And that helps too, because these were hard topics.
Yes.
But that taught me that there was nothing I couldn't do. Sometimes it was hard, but I could do it.
Yes. Oh my, so many nuggets there. I am a very big believer that if you don't own your story, somebody else will.
Mhm.
And I love
And
how
your
own
ending.
your story-
Yeah.
Yes.
And your ending.
And it's probably not the one you want. So I love how you own that it gave you confidence. And I love the strategy of having an elevator pitch, because you were very intentional in how you were going to reach and grab their attention and go towards your outcome.
It was a simple plan, but it worked. And it got people to know who I was. And pretty soon I would hit the halls and people would recognize me. And that was good. The more I did, the easier it got. But those first 2 years in the state, people know me, and they would know I had never done what I was arrested for. And I worked in politics, so I was known fairly well. But when I hit the international or national stage and had to start all over again, that was truly scary. But the first man to invite me to Washington was Congressman Hurd from San Antonio, who wasn't even my congressman. He simply heard this story, and he said, come tell me about this, because he thought it was wrong. So you take whatever open door you get, and you turn it into the next moment.
I love it. It goes back to what we were talking about, the strategy and intentionality, and
Never
amplify
forget
that message.
Never forget the people who listened and were kind.
Yes,
Mm.
beautiful.
It's funny how that rolls back around.
Very true. Thank you, Cheryl. Stacy, what about you? Any specific example where storytelling brought you or somebody else healing?
Yeah, first of all, Cheryl, I feel like I could write a book about you.
I will read it.
I definitely have so many stories around how storytelling helped me heal. But I remember one particular example as I, kind of was prepping for this panel. One of my team members, I noticed they started to change. They I saw the burnout, I saw the exhaustion, I saw just the removal almost to build. And I saw myself in them because I remember when I was going through the burnout, when I was going through, the exhaustion and the anxiety and the depression, quite honestly. And I had to make a choice. So similar to what Cheryl was saying, I had to make a choice. Do I take this moment to be vulnerable, or do I take this moment to be a leader, or can I be both? Right. And as her leader, I really chose to be vulnerable and share my story with her about, you probably didn't see it because guess what? As women, we know how to wear the mask, right?
yeah.
We know how to sit in the car, take a deep breath before you walk in the office, and you just press that autopilot button. But when that autopilot button stops working and you start to fall apart, in any room that you're in, I saw that happening to her. So I made a choice to share my story so that my story could help her heal. And at that moment, it was tough. It was a tough decision because I have, prided myself in like being the fixer. I call it the Olivia Pope syndrome. Like, I know how to wear the mask. I know how to get it done. But when that mask starts to crumble, and I saw that in her, it was my responsibility to share my story so that she would not have to walk in my footsteps. We say we want people to walk in our footsteps, but there are some footsteps that I just want to completely erase and ensure that no one ever has to take that journey. So that was an intentional decision. And through my journey, I've started to come up with this thing where I say, you got to say it like you mean it. And that turned into me writing a book called Say It Like You Mean It. And really what that is about is you have to be willing to risk something when you share your story. There's a risk in sharing that story. It's because the story should be rooted in truth. And not everyone wants to hear that truth, right? Not everyone is going to agree with that. So that was a moment for me where, although I knew the power of storytelling, to see it sort of transform someone in the moment, it literally gave her permission to break and be okay in her brokenness. So that for me was really a powerful moment where I was like, oh, there's a thing here. There's a there, right?
And it goes down, Stacey, to what you were saying, that it's not about you. It's about how you can best help, and you chose how you can best help that employee. And then the other thing I heard is that a lot of people think storytelling, that's only for the people who want to write books or want to make this impact and movement. Storytelling, like you mentioned at the beginning, to communicate with your son, right? To your kids, to
That's
your
probably my hardest story to tell.
But it's just storytelling helps connect. That's it. That's beautiful. And thanks for actually, we're going to talk about vulnerability very soon. But I'm glad that you chose that and you were able to help. Thank you for that. Absolutely. Now, we talk about storytelling because we've done it for so long that it's so easy, but it's easier said than done. So I want to ask if, let's see, Gloria, if you want to share an example where, what barriers have you faced whenever you are sharing your truth and how you overcome? Maybe you can come up with an example.
I think the biggest example for me, because I've thought a lot about this, is my own thoughts. I came to storytelling probably in my late 30s, early 40s, and I had these ideas that I wasn't young enough to be on stage. I didn't look the way I needed to look to be on stage. Nobody cared what some middle-aged mom had to say. All of those voices just really, and still to this day, if I get off stage and I feel like I did a really good job on a story, I get in the car and I'm already telling myself, it wasn't that good, right? It's a constant battle with the voice in your head that I'm too old. Who do I think I am by doing this? No one wants to hear what I have to say. That is a daily grind. And also the thing that I want to help people overcome, because when I look at everyone else, I'm like, what are you talking about? You, of course, should be on stage. You should be telling your story. Sure. Everybody wants to hear what you have to say. All those rules apply to everyone else, but for me, they're different. So because I have to overcome them every day, I really want to help other people navigate that a little bit more easily so that it doesn't stop them. It's going to exist, unfortunately, that jerk in your head that's going to always tell you the reason why it won't work. But I want to be the voice for other people, because I have those voices from others, friends, support systems. I want to be that voice for other people to say the jerk is not right. The jerk is just old records other people have spun for you.
Yeah.
Just get rid of it.
So Gloria, not to put you on the spot there, but I am.
That
voice in your head is very common for many people. And even it was mine when I decided to leave corporate, right, and start my business. I'm too old for this, it's too late. So imagine, I overcame that, and I love teaching about that too, but imagine that I'm going through it right now. What is one tool that I can use to help me rewire that? I'm too late to start my dream now.
I lean on the people who you know will tell you what you need to hear in that moment. I have categories. I mean, all my friends I love dearly, but I know when I need to hear someone just tell me I'm great, I know, and be sincere about it, I know who to call. If I need someone to tell me stop procrastinating, do it because no one else is going to, I know who to call. A support system is the thing that's going to get you through, because you can't think your way out of a brain that's already telling you you're not good enough to do the thing that you're doing.
I love it. Thank you. I always say it's not that they're going to give you, nobody does it alone, and they're not going to give you an award at the end. I mean, this is my wife about it. Like, she did it alone, right? Like, nobody's going to give you an award that says that. So that's wonderful. The proximity and support system. Thank you, Gloria. Cheryl, what about you? You had many barriers and how you have overcome those. You can share some tools and strategies. And you are muted.
I think Kay did that.
Oh, good.
Oh, now I'm not muted. I think the very hardest was the very first step. When all this was happening, it took 2 years and they still wouldn't come to the table to settle the plea deal. And there's no proof at all, driving or anywhere, of anything. So when they said, you're going to have to serve time. And one of my kids is an attorney. She had been an attorney 3 weeks when this happened. She said, let's not go to court. Let's win bigger than the courtroom. And that's where this whole thing began. And I thought about that. And then I broke it down into what does that actually mean? And what I had to do was go to court and plead guilty. And then they had to replace that with a probationary sentence. And that gave us time to start the legal battle and start my grassroots stuff. So that first moment, because she was not happy with my choice either, but we knew I needed out of the legal system. So I went to court and the judge gavelled me guilty, and that about broke my heart. I think that was the hardest moment of all this.
Wow.
And he gavelled me guilty and asked if I accepted the sentence. And I said, yes. And then he said, do you have any questions? I said, can you do anything to me anymore? And he looked at me and said, no. And I said, okay, thank you. And the next day I was in the legislator's office with my pile of papers and my notes. And that's where that journey began. But that initial step, because I did that all by myself and I didn't tell her I was going to do that. I went to court by myself to plead guilty. And she was very upset with me. She was like, you need support. And I said, no, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty upset by now. So I think that's it. Bringing that out into the light of day probably gave me, because once you do that, you kind of have to take the next step. And that was kind of good because I couldn't stop because I didn't have a job anymore. So it was kind of a personal commitment to where we were going to end up. And I just never quit looking. And
wow.
Yeah, I think it's belief in enough to say it where other people can hear you more than anything else. But I do have my tiny circle. And more than that, I have a horse. And my horse is, as more people will tell you, is my therapist. You can tell him anything and he won't tell anybody else.
I love it. What's the name of your horse?
Roman.
Run?
Roman.
A Roman. Oh, yeah. Roman. I love it.
Yeah, it was never very complicated. It was always, get yourself together enough to do the next thing and just keep it going.
I love it. And I think sometimes we get so overwhelmed by how big is this thing? Where do I even start? Start with the first.
It's very large at start, but once, and I told everybody, I said, once I have the laws in place, I'll be finished. And then I'm not finished. Now I'm still doing the advocacy, and we'll see if it happens. I'm due to.
Amazing. Cheryl, I'm going to continue with you because the next question is about how our stories as women, right? We can start impacting. Now we're not talking about 1, 2, 3 communities. We're making a movement.
Right.
How do you continue to do that? What makes you keep that energy and drive to keep moving forward when it comes to like a big impact in communities?
I get so many phone calls from people who have had similar problems with law enforcement. So the International Association of Chiefs of Police, I have 2 groups in Washington that are active and still speaking, and I'm not part of those anymore. And the more people I've got involved, the more people carry it. I think that's what's important, but there's always somebody else that needs help. And it's not always a mistaken arrest. It can be all kinds of things. I just finished some helping to me is how I got better. So I guess that's the short answer, whether it's volunteer work. We had a flood here in Texas and Sandy Creek got hit very hard. And I did some search and rescue to do that. And I stopped one day and I was crying and I thought, it still hurts me. Everything people go through. And that's how I know I'm really healed, I guess, is that I can feel all this stuff that other people have too. And the important part about that is it keeps everything in relation.
Yes.
In perspective. That's the right word. Perspective. Right word.
Yeah.
Because other people are going through things too. And I cannot as a person pretend like this is the worst thing that ever happened when I hear some of the other stories. So.
Yeah. And Cheryl, you have transformed this very, very difficult situation into your big why. And that's what I'm hearing from you. This is your why, and you keep being reaffirmed by all the people thanking you for the work that you're done and how you're impacting masses one action at a time.
Well, it's not an example of something that wasn't done wrong. And it gives people an example, and it also gives people hope that they can.
Yes.
If I can advocate from absolutely nothing, other people can too. I'm a CPA. I'm not known for public speaking.
No, I mean, you're doing a wonderful job sharing that story and consideration. And thank you, Cheryl. Stacy, what about you? How do you see the power of, women's stories and really shaping communities and moving?
Yeah. I mean, we can look over history and see that some of the biggest movements in our country have been driven by the voices of women, right? When we use our collective voices and our collective power, things change, whether it's in our household, whether it's in the world, whether it's on our jobs. So I think that, women's stories shaping communities and workplaces and all the things, it's really about legacy. It's really about leaving a legacy for the next generation, the next fill in the blank. And I think, for me, as I mentioned earlier, this mindset shift that I've gone through over several years, Catalyst was sort of the last that I landed on. Once I was healed from all the things, once my confidence was back, once I knew how to execute and live with compassion, once I, was able to do things consistently, it was like, well, I can't stop there. Now I have to be a catalyst for change and share this with other people so that they can then pass it down as a legacy. So I think we have enough evidence to know that when women speak, things change. And when women speak, people listen. Although we are living in a world where our voices are under attack, like let's be real. But we're still speaking up and speaking out through it all. So one story can really spark a movement that multiplies and amplifies whatever it is we're trying to achieve.
I love that. And I saw it also in the comments. People are feeling very connected with that word of being a catalyst. And what I heard from you too also is the power of the collective voice and how we can make change out there.
Absolutely. We need to, I joke with people and say, how folks say, well, you have to make room at the table. And I'm like, well, everyone's not going to provide you a seat at the table. Everyone's not going to make room. So guess what? You crawl up on top of the table and sit up there and say, hey, I'm here.
Yes, exactly. So No, just bring the table, but use it and speak.
Exactly.
Make
Or
yourself
I'll bring my
heard.
table and chair with me, but I have to make space for myself because unfortunately not everyone makes space for us. But when we do, when we use that collective power, it really can move mountains. It really can.
Yes. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And I know we already talked about vulnerability. Sorry, some words are too big in English for me.
It's okay.
Vulnerability. Okay, I did it well. Okay. Now, what is the power of vulnerability and connection, right? When it comes to storytelling, Gloria, maybe you can answer that one.
Sure. To me, it's the crux of what I like to exemplify in my stories, but encourage other people to do because, well, and I would like to say too, in a professional setting versus getting on the moth stage, you have to decide what's the appropriate level of vulnerable for the audience that you have. But some sort of vulnerability will allow people to connect with you, know that you are bleeding a little bit, so it's okay for them, like Stacy said, to be a little broken, to show you what's going on with them. What I think about is, and talk about, I don't even know if this, I said it's important to know whether it's appropriate to show a certain story or not, but that this story always comes back to me on a personal level. When I got pregnant the first time, I had a miscarriage, and it wasn't until that happened and people heard and everyone said, oh yeah, I had one too, that I realized how common this was, that we weren't talking about, but because people didn't want me to feel alone, they told me their stories. And it did make me feel less alone. It made me feel like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. This is just something that happens. So I tell people my stories about vulnerability, the difficulties I have, because what is the point of me going through something really hard and getting to the other side of it if it can't be to the benefit of someone else to maybe make it a hair easier? So I just feel that the vulnerability aspect of storytelling, regardless of whether you're an executive speaking at a keynote or you're on the stage at a story slam, it's the thing that is going to make people lean in and listen a little more and feel connected to you because they know that you're sacrificing, like Stacy said earlier too, there's a risk. You've got to, there's something that has to be at risk here.
And in these days, it's so, Gloria, I don't know if there's something with your mic that is picking up my voice. No worries. But that, no, I love it. And I think I find it very refreshing. I don't know if you can also connect, because in these days we live in a world, we think everybody's perfect and there must be something wrong with me. So when we share, just like you said, Gloria, being vulnerable, it makes it real. It makes me, okay, I'm not alone. I have permission. I have hope. It can be done. I remember I did one video about the time I cried at work, and that's the one that everybody was connecting with. Not the one that I say, the time I won this award. So it's the content and the message that connects and help people. Thank you, Gloria. Cheryl, what about you? Vulnerability.
I think when I stopped worrying about what people thought, was really freeing, because this has been a long journey, and to still have things that have nothing to do with this, which that's what I aim for, to be honest. And it became important that this was a long mission and it was necessary to get my life and my control back. But there are also big parts of my world that this is not. And it's important sometimes to realize that, to do, and my way is volunteer work to go do. But I also travel, and I have the horse I already mentioned, and I have lots of people. And I think the important thing is that this is only so important. And if this had never fixed, I would still have a life. And there are a lot of people that have many worse problems. And I think I retired my shoes that I was crying in that day when I was doing search and rescue at Sandy Creek. They are now retired because there were lots of things ruined, and my shoes are ripped and gray and filthy, and they're mine. They're in a bag because they're my touchstone for the complete wreck of people's lives that I spent time working on this summer. And that is nothing to do with me, has nothing to do with all of this. It's just me and my, water bottle and my dirty shoes. But the huge difference is so important to get outside myself and move on. And that's how I knew I was really healed. And that came through saving me. I was in Paris in 2023 and got stuck in a riot, French police riot, and I managed to get me out. And that's the first time in 11 years, because PTSD kind of freezes you. And that was the first time I managed to get me out of a scary situation and safe. And my French is not near good enough to speak about stuff like this. It's more like, a glass of wine or this or that. But that I came home knowing I was back in control of me at that time. So it's taken a while. But yeah, but it's good. It's time to move on.
Great distinction, understanding that that's the time the moment I knew I was healed. So that was a great distinction, Cheryl. And that thing about worrying about what will people say, goodness, all of us share that. Everybody says, oh, it's just me. Everybody shares that. So let's say, for example, Stacy, for example, is struggling with that. How would you coach her in terms of not worrying about what will people say?
I would make a list, the old-fashioned list down the middle of the page. And I would put what's good on one side and what's not on the other. And when you look at that, walk away for 2 hours. And when you walk back, you'll realize that list is really not even. You've written things that don't really matter. And what I actually do, I actually cross through them, take them off my list. And what's left is usually what I will get up with.
Oh,
but
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm basic.
But you know what? Simplicity is power. The more we complicate stuff, the less we do. So I love the simplicity of all of the strategies that have been shared today because they're still powerful. So thank you, Cheryl. I have, actually, I'm going to ask each of you this question. So if there's a woman watching today and empowered, inspired by all your story, but still hesitating about sharing her story, what will be the best advice you can give her? And Gloria, I'm going to start with you. And you're muted.
Sorry. I would say feel the hesitation and do it anyway. Because you get a lot of mileage out of doing things that you're scared of. I always think of fear or doing something that terrifies me, whether it's actually something that's terrifying, like, I don't know, skydiving, or just getting on stage and telling a story. I think of it like those moving walkways in the airport. So if you're walking on the regular floor, you're still going to get where you're going. But if you get on the moving sidewalks, you're going to get there a lot faster. And walking through fear, doing something that scares you, feels like a moving sidewalk. Because when you get to the other side, there's this strength and empowerment and this, oh, I can't believe I did that kind of feeling. So just acknowledge the hesitation, feel the fear, hold on to it while you do it anyway, because it's going to be there and might as well accomplish the thing that you want to do.
Amazing. I don't know if you guys are seeing the chat, but people are quoting each of you. That's how powerful this discussion has been. I love it. Stacy, what about you?
Yeah, I love what Gloria said. And I would add to that, do it afraid, because what's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that can happen? To Cheryl's point of when you go back and look at that list, you're really like, are these things really a big deal? So what's the worst that can happen? And you also have to give yourself a little grace. You have to give yourself a little grace to know that, your voice may shake. You may, your legs may tremble under the table. You may even trip up the steps of the stage. But you dust yourself off and do it anyway, because you are literally, it's like a fingerprint. You are literally the only person who can tell your story. Mm-hmm. You are literally the only person who can tell your story. So you do it anyway. Do it afraid. Do it if you shake. I love what Gloria said, because I remember I used to be like, oh my God, I'm so afraid to go up on the stage. My stomach is jittery. Now I'm like, where are the jitters? I welcome them. I want those jitters to come because I know when I have those jitters, there is power, there is breakthrough, there is healing, there is transformation on the other side of those jitters. So I welcome the jitters now, whereas I used to fear them. So do it anyway. What's the
I
worst thing?
love that. I love that. Where are the jitters? I'm gonna add that now into my repertoire of pre-game activities. Uh, Cheryl.
I would take it down even one more step. And my example was, if I don't do this, what will be? What would be was that I would always have a mark on my licenses. That was how I made a living. And I had quite a good reputation. So what will happen if I don't do it? And that's an even more basic thing. So that added to the reasons, those reasons on the left side of the page to do it, because there really wasn't a life that I had created for a really long time that was going to stay. This wasn't a simple yes and no answer. So I would get down to the exact, what will be if I don't do it.
That's beautiful. Love it, all of them. And if I can also add one, is a lot of people fear that, what if I fail? But what does even failure mean? All you're going to do is learning. Did it work, or it could work better? So grab the learning and keep moving forward. There's no such thing as perfection. Just be you, be real, and focus on why are you doing this, and that the outcome you want and the people you want to help and inspire. I love that. I have one more final question before we wrap it up, but usually towards the very end, we usually share, this is how you can find us. But people are already, going bio breaks and get a bite. So I'm going to ask each of you to know where you can find you before I do the final question. So I'm going to start with you, Stacy. Where can people find you?
Yes, so I'll give you both of my identities. You can find Stacy Cleveland. I'm pretty much on every social media platform as the storytellers coach. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn as the storytellers coach. I'm Stacy Cleveland on LinkedIn, but the storytellers coach on Facebook and Instagram. For the romance lovers out there, you can find me again on Instagram as Robbie Renee Writes, on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
Awesome. Beautiful. Gloria, what about, how can we find you?
You can go to my website, which will have all of my social links. It's Prose Story Consulting, spelled like the writing prose, not like a professional. You can reach out to me there, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of those. And I can't wait to go follow Stacy so I can read some of your books.
I'm writing down your website as you're
I think we all are.
Yeah. Yep.
Love it. Cheryl, how can people find you?
I'm on LinkedIn under my name. And then my website is CherylKempspeaks.com.
Okay. And it's KEMPF.
Right.
Very good. Very good. Okay. So let's wrap it up. If you have one last final wisdom nugget to share with this amazing audience, so they are super engaged and they're loving the conversation, what would that be? And I'm going to start with Gloria.
I've always in a room with women, I find they're asking the question, how can I support you? So find a room of women. And when you're ready to do that thing, be scared, do it anyway, because I promise it's worth it.
I'm so inspired here. Cheryl, what will be like the final wisdom that you would like to share?
Don't give up. Do it your way, but do it. I think it's very important. I've had a lot of supporters along this journey, both men and women, and it just takes the people who can see beyond what's right in front of them that are the important ones there. And those are the visions you want to keep, because they help me find my direction too. And that took not getting so stuck in myself that I couldn't hear other people. So
I love
think
that.
and listen. Yeah, think and listen.
And Cheryl, if I can add one before I go to Stacy, is to remember to always fill your cup, because as you're saying, don't give up. Sometimes we give, and we can get into burnout and just being exhausted. Why am I even doing this? Just fill your cup. Know when you need it, like now, proactively. So that way you are in a good state of energy and you can lead and inspire and give at your best. Stacy, let's wrap it up with you.
Absolutely. I would say quick things. You already know what matters. Say it when your voice shakes, when you're trembling, when you're afraid. Give yourself grace. Your truth and your story are non-negotiable. It's non-negotiable. Keep showing up. And when you show up, your story will literally set other people free.
If this was a mic, this is what I would do. We can even write a book for you, book ladies. We can write a book that we shared today. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank each of you for sharing very candidly your story, your wisdom. You didn't take any, you just gave everything. Very encouraged on your voice. Do it afraid, and your voice is perfect, just as it is. So thank you everybody also for carving time and prioritizing yourself and understanding more about the power of storytelling. Hopefully you got the house, you got inspiration, and you got some actions in your notes about what to do next so you can also own your voice. And for those of you who register for the next event that is coming up in just about 9 minutes, the Zoom Connection Hour, I'm going to give you some time so you can grab a bite, maybe do a bio break, but make sure that you connect to the Zoom link, exit here, go to the Zoom link, and we will see you on the other side. Thank you, ladies, everybody, for being here.
Bye.
Thank you.